Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. And hey, we see the title. We're gonna discuss having babies out of wedlock. It's a touchy subject. So do me a favor, lock in. Try to understand that this is not about being judgmental. This is about the village. This is about taking care of the village, making sure that young people have all the information that they need to make the decisions that will positively impact their lives and the lives of children that come into this world. Okay, so let's jump right on into this. Okay, listen. When we're done, do me a favor. Pass on some of your experiences. Pass on your opinions of the topic of how you think this was put across. Because one, I don't want to come across as if I'm judging anybody. I'm not. Okay, I'm not judging anyone about anything. I'm just presenting information with the hopes that it'll positively impact someone's life. Okay, so please buckle in and try to understand that this is coming from a place of love and a good place. So here we go. So to define out of wedlock, that's simple. It's very simple. You're not married. So if you're having a baby and you're not married, societally, that's not good. Okay. Now, I get it. There are going to be some people who hear this and they're going to say, I don't care what society think. I don't care. Listen, it's deeper than what you think as far as how you view people looking at you. It's not about that, because keep in mind, when you have a child, that's a baby. That's another whole life that you now have to take care of. So keep that in mind, man. When we are discussing this topic, it's not just about the mother. What I would hope that everyone would take away from this is the impact on the child, the long-term impact on the child. So we're going to touch on just the way society sees this, right? So we know that, you hear the little titles, baby mama and baby daddy and all this negative stuff. And I get it. Listen, people feel like if you have a baby out of wedlock, then you have to be on the system and getting free money and this, that, and the other. What people don't realize is that there are a lot of families that will tell their children, especially if they have a teenager that has a baby, this baby's not going to be on welfare. You're going to get a job and you're going to raise this child outside of welfare. Because if you can go out here in these streets and do the thing that causes a baby to be here, then you can go out here and do the thing that causes yourself to take care of that baby. It's that simple. It really is that simple. But when you're 15, 16, 17 years old, the maturity level isn't there. The full understanding of having a baby and the ramifications of having a baby at that age is not there. And I don't care how many other people's babies you've held and you think that, I can do this. Yeah, you're holding a baby for a few minutes. You may even babysit a baby for a couple hours while the mom goes, run some errands or whatever. And that baby could be asleep or just smiling because you're feeding them, and that's it. But you're not there every day, day in, day out. You're not the one that's responsible for having to take the baby to a babysitter, to find babysitting, so on and so forth. Now, if you all notice, I have not even touched on whether or not I'm talking about a male or a female right now. I get it. Females have the baby, but last time I checked, it takes a man and a woman to have a baby, to procreate. It takes a man and a woman. So fellas, I'm talking to you too. This video is not just for females. This is for the guys too. And so keep everything in mind, man. We've got to look at things through the lens of the future. So traditionally, everyone knows from a cultural standpoint, man, wife. Back in the early 1900s, and I get it, a lot of y'all don't know nothing about the 1900s, let alone the early 1900s, and neither do I. But I remember the stories. I remember talking to my grandparents. I remember seeing my grandparents because on both sides they were married. They were married and they raised a family. You see, back then, and I'm not saying that there wasn't babies born out of wedlock back then. What I am saying is there was a village and the family lived on the same land and they took care of each other. Nowadays, we're spread all over the place. you want to get somebody to babysit, a lot of times you got to get in the car and go take the baby somewhere just to be babysat. Then you got to go take care of your business, come back to the place where your baby's at, get the baby, then you got to go home. Back in those days, they would just go next door and drop the baby off and go take care of business and come back home, go next door, get the baby, and then, and you're there. But as time goes on, you'll see that it's not that way anymore. Now we are spread out, and as a community, we're definitely spread out. Today, and that's the contrast between the early 1900s and before, if you will. Leading all the way up, realistically leading all the way up to like 1970s. The 1970s, families were still together. You didn't start really seeing people having babies out of wedlock until the 80s. I mean, in droves, right? Until the 80s, 90s, that's when you really started seeing it. And nowadays, and we're gonna get into some statistics here in a minute, but it's not good. It is not good. So listen, hear this out. Here's a 2022 study that says 39.8% of babies born in the United States were born to unmarried women, which is about 1,461,305 babies born. Now that's 1 million, almost 1.5 million babies born without the mother and the father in the house to be able to bring that child up with the nurturing that they need from their mother, and then from the discipline, if you will, from the father, and it is so important to have both in the house. Just because the daddy's in the child's life, or the mother's in the child's life if the baby stays with the father, if they're not in the same house, hearing mom and dad's voice daily, there's an impact. Okay, listen, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not pretending to be one, but I just know, because I remember when my mother and my father were divorced, right? When they got divorced in the early 1980s, while my father was less than 10 miles away, and he came to see us and we went to see him, and it was, he wasn't in the house. We stopped hearing his voice every day. We stopped seeing him come home from work every day. We stopped interacting, going out back and throwing a baseball or playing basketball every day. These are things that we should do. Now we don't do that. And then now you have to replace him with someone else. And a lot of times you're replacing with who? You're replacing with another child. And when you get children replacing adults, that's when mischief starts. That's when people start doing things that they should not be doing, okay? Here's another statistic for you. According to the government statistics, 69.4% of African-American babies are born to unmarried mothers. That means a lot more than, listen, that's almost 70% of the babies born in this country, this United States. Almost 70% of the babies born in the United States are born to unmarried mothers. So, there's challenges. And here are the challenges, right? So we already talked about the economic piece to it, right? Mother and dad not in the house. Now you're taking care of the baby. Even, a lot of times there's child support issues and things of that nature. And those things impact. Those things have an impact on the development of the child. If the dad's not, doing the right thing and, taking care of the child from a child support standpoint, then that's going to impact the child. But it's not going to impact them emotionally. It's just going to impact them, in the house, whether or not, like his clothes, the food that he's eating, the place where he can afford to live, all these things that child support kind of help with, right? And that's again, keep the child in mind. Everything that I'm saying, take yourself out of it. If this pertains to you, take yourself out of it. Think about the child, because the child is the only thing that's important right now. You've already made your decision. The child did not decide to be born. You did that. We're doing that as adults, or as young people who think we're adults, and now we're out here and we're doing things that's bringing a whole life into the world that we can't even really take care of. And it's not fair. It's not fair to your parents, because a lot of times the parents end up having to take care of the child and you. Why? Because you're a child still, and then you got to take care of the child that you just brought into the world. So now, instead of the parents having 3 children, now they got 4, right? Or 2 children, now they got 3, so on and so forth. So just, these are things that we have to keep in the front of our mind. And, is there a stigma? Yes. A lot of times when you go to get a job, if they know that you are a single parent, they know that you're going to eventually start having those challenges that's going to prevent you from coming to work because the babysitter's not there. You may have to leave all the time to go pick the baby up and blah, blah, blah. Whereas both parents in the house, you can, mom and dad can kind of help out. When you're married and both parents live in the house and then you have those problems for whatever reason, and I don't think it's fair, but for whatever reason, your job tends to understand if you have to leave this time because they realize that there's another parent. Maybe that other parent will get up next time. So keep that in mind. There's some stigmas. What I don't want to do on this next part here is I don't want to glorify this, okay? But I don't want to also make it seem like it's all doom and gloom because there are some success stories. There are some success stories. There are plenty of children born out of wedlock who, regardless of their circumstances, they were raised up properly. And because they were raised up properly, the grades were good, end up going, maybe going to school, getting scholarships and, whatever, academic, sports, whatever, and doing well in life. Sometimes it has nothing to do with going to school. Sometimes it's just you raised a good child, and that child went out into the world and met a man or met a woman, and built a life together. So there's definitely some success stories out there. But the question isn't whether or not that's a good thing. The question is it fair for that child to come into the world without having his mom and his dad in his life? We all know that we're going to love our children. We're going to love our children regardless. We're going to do the very best that we can for them because we know that that's important. We know that's important. But loving our children isn't enough once they go out the front door. When they're at school and they don't have their dad's voice in their ear, when they come across guys, especially when it's boys, when they come across guys that want to do some mischief, they need to have that dad's voice in his ear saying, you get in trouble, I got something waiting for you when you get home. Or by the way, when you go out here in the streets and you get arrested, I'll see you when you get out. And no, I'm not coming to your rescue because you know better. See, dads do stuff like that. Dads will say things like that. And if moms are kind of, and I hate to say it this way, mom, so please don't beat me up, but sometimes moms got to step out the way and let dads do what they do so that they can do their role. Because keep in mind, it's a mom role and there's a dad role, okay? Male and female. So, there, a lot of times I find that whenever someone was raised in a house without mom and dad who are really doing really good in the world today, they find themselves being role models to other kids, right? These are baseball, football, basketball coaches in the neighborhood, guys like that, because they know the importance of having both parents in the house or having a positive male role model that they can just talk to. And a lot of those kids, they do that. And listen, I know I'm speaking more from a male perspective, but fill in the gaps for the female side, right? You got ladies that cheer, ladies that that just do mentoring programs, different things like that. I've seen some beautiful things with ladies that put programs together to help girls, especially like in the inner city, things like that. Just great things that that people out here doing to try to get these young ladies to come up right. Because if they can come up right, then they can go out right, go out the door when it's time for them to get out and get out into the world. So, give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts in the comments. What has been your experience? What's your perspective? How do you feel about this subject? What is it what am I missing? How can we do better? What's the message that we should be messaging to our young people, aside from this video, but what's a good message that we could give to them so they can understand that, man, if you can do this right, your world will be a lot better. But if you start off behind the 8 ball, it's, now you got to play catch up when everybody else is already, 40, 50 yards down the road. And now here you are just trying to play catch up. So, tell me some of your experiences. Here's a good question that you can, answer in the chat. Is marriage essential? for raising a child? Do you think it's essential? Um, how has your perspective on family structures changed? Do you think that families need to, have that in order to be successful? Some people don't. Some people say, hey, as long as you got a strong mom or a strong dad, the kids are going to be fine. But then someone will come right behind them and say, yeah, but a mom can't be a dad and a dad can't be a mom. And while, we give our women a lot of credit for raising these children by themselves a lot of times, the reality is she is not a man. She's not. And because she's not a man, there are some inherent things that she cannot teach her son because she's not a man to be able to teach it. She can be hard on him. These are things that's fine, but what's being hard on him have to do with him growing up and being a respectful citizen of society. Because I know a lot of kids who've had people being hard on them and they're in jail right now. But I know a lot of guys and girls or whatever. I don't know them, but I know that there's a lot of guys and girls who had moms and dad, butter them up and and treat them like marshmallows. And then guess what? And they're in jail. So just tell me what your perspectives are. Tell me what you think about that. And then listen. In conclusion, let me say this again. Like I was saying, this is not about finger pointing. This is not about trying to make someone feel bad. This is not about that. This is about how do we, as a village, get our young people to understand that it's important to come out the gate the right way for your future. For your future. You would want to get out into the world, get established, and bring a baby into an established world, as opposed to going out here, having a baby, and you're still in high school, or, you're in college, or you're 19, 20 years old, and you haven't really established yourself yet, and now you got a baby. So everything is turned upside down. And listen, I love my children. By the way, I have two. Love my children. They were raised in a house with mom and dad their whole life. They don't know anything else. My children are doing great. My daughter's getting a PhD right now. My son is he's out here in the world working. So we're doing good things. But that's me. That's my story. What's yours? Chop it up in the comment section. Let me know what you think. As I always say on this channel, think and grow. Okay? Continue to think so you can grow. And listen, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.